Okay, the meeting is now reconvening. The mayor is trying to bring order back to the room. It's 11:25. Some people have been here since 7, and we still have a relatively packed house. Absolutely. You got it.
I guess it depends on the site.
Oh, how can you not have this? You gotta have this. Then he's gonna take the fall for that. I mean, really.
Okay. The council and mayor are entering the room, and there's Mr. Broughton. Folks are still milling about. For what it's worth, I am going to go ahead and predict that the town and the council will reverse the disinvitation of Jason Castle. I find it difficult to believe that they're going to stick to their prior position. And I believe that Councilwoman Lizette Parker, is going to introduce a motion to reverse the disinvitation. We shall see what happens.
We haven't learned our lesson here.
Everybody can take their seats, please. I'd like to call the meeting back to order.
I just want to thank whoever it was. That said it earlier that I must have missed a meeting 2 weeks ago. Sorry I wasn't here. I was a little under the weather. That being said, I would like to make a motion that we ask that Jason Castle's name be added as a speaker to the Township Memorial Assembly.
I don't think there needs to be any discussion on that motion if we just do a roll call.
Second.
Second was the panel.
Seconded by me.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Short?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. I think a lot's been said tonight, and a lot of people came out for a variety of reasons. Mrs. Rogovan, your children, thank you for them serving. Mr. McGilchrist, thank you for you serving. Mr. Robinson, Mr. Berry, Mr. Nygaard, Mr. Castle, Mr. Lou Schwartz, and what am I missing? Scott Pleasant and Mr. Nygaard, thank you for serving. I'd like to talk about a couple of things that were made about and Mr. Spears. If I left anybody out, please raise your hand.
Baker.
Mr. Baker, thank you also.
Mr. Hannon.
And Mr. Hannon, thank you also.
Mr. Addison.
Mr. Addison, thank you also.
Mr.
Mr. Lenny Hannon, how could I forget? Thank you. I think one of the things that in this entire endeavor that we saw, and I see a lot of disappointed faces that, we invited them back to speak tonight. People,
No.
people who are looking at things
Speak for yourself.
different light.
That's insulting.
Excuse me, I'm talking. I'm talking. Okay. And I would like to talk specifically, to people who carry a lot of weight in this community. Mr. Goldstein and Ms. Lacey, your words resonated very well with me and with the entire council. And the responsibility and leadership that you've had throughout the years, both of you, I think that we really get what you're saying to us. That being said, the council respects veterans. And I say that because before that even this started, this whole hubbub started, And last week, after everybody left, I made it public that we have the planning board actually looking at a site of having affordable housing for veterans that fulfills our COA requirements. And this was something that was never done before. This was something that was never even discussed before. But this council brought this to the town for the veterans. I'm not going to talk about the process of how this happened and which way this was kind of unfolded. A lot of things, and me and Mr. Castle spoke, is about communication between people and between citizens. And we have common ground where we know where people who are trying to start trouble are trying to build divisions where there need not be divisions. And that part of it, as I'm saying, is what we have to strive to work for. And I can give you a story of how, again, I'm conflicted if I bring this up here, because I brought it up at a Community Relations Advisory Board meeting. And Alan, you were there, and Senator Weinberg, you were there. And this was back when I first became mayor, and people had the audacity to accuse me and accuse the council of having a hand in Joan Davis's murder.
Whoa.
Okay. Now, the same kind of outrage and the same kind of rumor mill that people were going around and saying, you have two choices to go down there. You can take it in by yourself, or you can make a big deal out of it. I brought it to the Community Relations Advisory Board. The Community Relations Advisory Board did not want to touch it. So I left it alone also. But I think that that's where you get to the point where people are making comments and rhetoric that brings us to a point where 2.5 years later, you don't know what somebody's going to say on Memorial Day because you don't know that person. And this is what ends up happening when people who try to divide our town succeed. And I've always been a person where people can approach me, I can agree with you, I can disagree with you. There are certain people where I have assumptions about certain people that I was wrong about, and I'm man enough to admit that. So, as we close this chapter, Mr. Castle, I'm assuming you're going to accept the invitation to be added on as a guest speaker.
I am honored to accept that invitation.
Thank you for your honor as well. And I think that the lesson that a lot of people who are outraged here, who come out, this decision again was made because of people who came up to us, myself, the manager, after last year's Memorial Day service, and were really ticked off about a lot of comments that were made. And even with those ticked off comments that people made in a political discussion, some of them were directed at the deputy mayor. And when we and the deputy mayor discussed it, he said, maybe I shouldn't read the Gettysburg Address. He didn't put his name in this forward and asked me to put his name forward to read the Gettysburg Address this year. So I think that a lot that we have learned tonight is that there needs to be better communication, and we all have to really listen to who we're talking to. Amen. Really listen to about what the issues are, and really be cognizant about who's delivering the message. And when you're talking about the Gang of Four, or the Gang of Five, or whatever gang you want to talk about us up here, whether you want to call us McCarthy, fascist, tyrants, totalitarian, junta,
And a cabal.
And a cabal. I think that this is not personal for me. I mean, if you go to my name, you'll see a lot worse stuff written about me than the stuff that's said to me here. Did you have something to add, Senator? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. I was commiserating with you. I said, spend an afternoon with some of the pro-gun people.
So it's again, it's something that as we move on, this is something that I think that is a blip in the road for Teaneck, and we can move on and be proud of who we are. And as everybody wanted us and wanted us to listen to, we did listen to. So with that, I will. Any of my council members on the right should
I'm going to say that I'm glad that you proved me
Louder.
wrong.
Talk into the mic.
I'm glad that you proved me wrong and that the council did the right thing this evening in passing that resolution. And I'm happy that they did that. Last week was a very uncomfortable week. My brother called me after seeing the story.
Could you turn the mic a little louder?
I don't know why my mic's not working.
So you have to speak louder.
Okay, I'll try to talk louder. But basically, I just want to say that, last week was a very uncomfortable week after the week leading up to this meeting. When my brother saw the story in the record, he was shocked that a person would not be asked to speak at a meeting because they voiced their opinions that were different from those who sat on the dais. But I'm happy that I'll be able to go to him tomorrow and say that the decision was rescinded. And I thank you guys for listening to the public. But it shows you that there is strength in numbers. Constantly come out to the meetings to find out what it is, so that mistakes like this will be made in the future.
I really don't have anything else to say. I think what just happened in the last few minutes speaks for itself. For those who weren't sure how I felt earlier this evening, I think you now know. That's all I have to say.
I'll touch briefly. I think I'll just say what you said. The only thing I can ask is I'm going to actually point to Howard Rose. You had asked about the name calling and whatnot. We could agree to disagree. We can disagree and agree. But I just think the only thing I can ask for is done in a respectful fashion. And when you see people get up and accuse, yell, scream, point, throw insults, and then there's a person like Howard Rose that gets up and can very well disagree, but does it with the utmost respect. And I sit here and I listen to everyone, and I point to Howard Rose as a model of someone that when he speaks, it's done in the most respectful way. And I think respect is a two-way street. I learn, I try to give it back, and I just want to reinforce that is a two-way street.
As many of you know, this time a year ago, Jason Castle and I were opponents in an election that was about to take place. We've had several conversations over the past year, a lot of political similarities, we have some political differences. And this chamber is the place that's appropriate to fight those political fights. The Memorial Day commemoration is the place to honor those that have died for our right to have the political fights in this chamber. And so the first step in my professional career, I had the opportunity to work for Dale Carnegie. And one of the, everyone's read or heard of How to Win Friends and Influence People. Often tell myself I need to read the book again and again and again. But one of the things he talks about is that people respond in kind. And so if you have a smile, people respond with a smile. If you're kind, people respond with kindness. The problem is that works the other way as well. And so when people attack, when people push, we tend to push back and dig in our heels. And I think when I looked at my position 2 weeks ago, it was responding in kind. Listening to, and I listened to every single speaker. I wrote down notes on comments on everything everyone spoke. But Miss Lisa, your words touched me. And I didn't particularly care for what a lot of other people said when it's attacking and mean and nasty. But your words were strong and encouraging. And it's easy to take that type of sentiment to heart. We made a mistake. And it's essential that we realize that we are big enough. I do not make myself less for giving in. I do not make myself less for changing when where I was wrong. We will continue to have political disagreements and political battles. Because it's a political world. Mr. Castle and I may very well be in an election against each other again at some point. The senator and I will certainly have public disagreements. most certainly. But those political disagreements, those difficulties are what Memorial Day is all about. And so I look forward to seeing everyone on the municipal green to commemorate those that have fought and died for the rights that we exercise tonight.
With that, we still have a consent agenda to move on to. If people would like to make their way outside.